This is my version of exist. Let's look at Ayn Rand's notion of exist. Okay, here's Ayn, some call her Ayn Rand. Existence exists. Well, that's very poetic and also very nonsensical. To say that reality is reality, to say that reality exists or that existence is reality, all you're doing is just putting synonyms. Very poetic. Maybe you can use it in a song, but you can't use that as a definition. That statement implies two corollary axioms. And the first one is murder, absolute murder. Something exists which one perceives. Absolutely not. That's the notion that everybody has in their mind, that something that exists is what you can perceive. Perceive with what? With the senses. Okay? So the question is, can you perceive a magnetic field, around a magnet? And you can say, well, yeah, see, look, I can attract another magnet, so there's something there. But that's only if you put it to the test. If you only have one magnet sitting on the table, can you tell me whether the magnetic field exists? And so, in other words, if you go out there in the field and you find a piece of lodestone, a little rock out there that is magnetized, can you tell me whether it's a magnet or not, whether it's lodestone or just an ordinary stone? And again, it's not perception that's going to tell us something about existence. It's going to be the definition of exist that's going to tell us something about existence. You got to define the term. And obviously, if Ayn Rand had this notion that existence is related to perception or is defined by perception, she had no clue whatsoever about existence, and that's her starting point for ontology. So it just gives you an idea. She's in the same boat as everybody else until rational science. Rational science changed all that. Paradigm shift at the turn of the century. Now we have a new definition, a definition we can use consistently. And that obviously, offends a lot of people because there's a lot of followers of Ayn Rand says, she's so smart, and look, she had all these ideas about politics and about behavior and about ethics and so on, and of course about ontology, about what exists. And she made the same error as all the other philosophers. They never were able to define the word exist precisely. They had these vague notions, which they muddled further by introducing the observer. And everybody says, well, see, she says that what exists is independent of thought. But then in the next line and the next sentence, after the and, she puts perception. And she says, exists is what you perceive. No. Kill the observer. Exist belongs strictly to physics, and you can only talk about existence after you kill all living entities in the universe. Everything becomes inert. Now you can talk about what exists independent of thought, senses, or perception, or any of that. That's the only way you can deal with the word exist. Exist does not require an observer. Exist is when the observer dies, that's what exists, what remains behind. And atheists especially have lots of problem with that. They get offended by that type of reasoning because they're in the same boat as Ayn Rand, who was an atheist, okay? And all the other philosophers, take David Hume, take Immanuel Kant. All these people were really atheists deep in their, they didn't have this notion of the existence of God that the Catholic Church has. They were more advanced, a little more advanced than that, but they had this mumble jumble in their head where they didn't really know what exist meant. And no one defined the word precisely, and that's why we still have discussion between atheists and deists and theists and agnostics. They go around in circles. Why? Because no one defined the word exist.